I, 28F, have been married to my husband Brendan, 32M, for the past 3 years. Our story began at a corporate end-of-year party where I was working as an intern in the marketing department and he was a senior manager at a different company. We hit it off immediately and started dating soon after. Brendan was everything I could have hoped for, kind, supportive, and encouraged me to pursue my career goals. We dated for 2 years before getting married in a small ceremony. From the beginning, his sister Phoebe, 30F, made it clear that she disapproved of our relationship. She never missed an opportunity to remind everyone that I was just an intern when I met Brendan, implying that I was a gold digger who was after her brother's money. The real reason behind her hostility was her close friendship with Brendan's ex-girlfriend Amy, 31F. Phoebe and Amy had been inseparable since middle school, and Phoebe was determined to see them get back together. The backstory between Brendan and Amy is complicated. They dated for 6 years, starting in their senior year of high school. Everyone in their social circle assumed they would eventually get married. They were the perfect couple according to Phoebe, both from wealthy families, same social background, and their parents were friends. Amy had studied business like Brendan and worked at her father's company. Phoebe and Amy had been best friends since middle school, and Amy was practically a member of their family. Their relationship ended when Amy got a job offer from a prestigious firm in a different city. It was a significant career advancement for her, and she wanted Brendan to move with her. However, Brendan had just been shortlisted for a major promotion at his company. He had worked there for 5 years and was finally about to get the recognition he deserved. Amy insisted that Brendan could easily find another job in the new city, but Brendan wasn't willing to give up his career that he had built from scratch. They tried long distance for a few months, but the strain of being apart and their different priorities eventually led to their breakup. Phoebe took Amy's side completely and blamed Brendan for choosing his career over love. In her mind, if Brendan had truly loved Amy, he would have made the sacrifice and moved with her. She spent months telling Brendan that he was being selfish and would regret letting Amy go. Even after Amy moved to the new city and started dating other people, Phoebe kept trying to orchestrate situations where they would meet again. When Brendan started dating me, Phoebe's behavior went from bad to worse. She thought I wasn't good enough for her brother because of my background. I come from a middle-class family. My dad is a high school teacher and my mom works part-time at a local library. I worked part-time jobs through college to help pay for my education. Phoebe saw this as proof that I was only interested in Brendan's money. She would constantly make snide remark about my clothes, my car, and even the neighborhood I grew up in. Every family dinner turned into an opportunity for her to compare me to Amy, telling Brendan how Amy was so much more sophisticated and accomplished. Despite Phoebe's attitude, I focused on building my career. I worked hard, took extra courses, and steadily moved up in my field. Finally, after years of effort, I landed my dream job at one of the top tech companies in our city. The position was everything I had worked for: better pay, more responsibilities, and amazing growth opportunities. I was thrilled until I discovered that Phoebe worked in the HR department of the same company. I hadn't known this when I applied because she had recently switched jobs. When I found out, I was worried but tried to stay positive. We were both professionals, after all, and I hoped she would keep our personal issues separate from work. That hope was completely misplaced. Over the next 6 months, strange things started happening at work. Important emails about project deadlines would vanish from my inbox. My calendar would mysteriously get updated with wrong meeting times, making me miss important discussions. My team members would receive incorrect information about my availability for projects. At first, I thought these were just technical glitches or miscommunications. I started keeping detailed records and double-checking everything, but the problems kept getting worse. The truth came out last week in the most unexpected way. I was in the office bathroom during lunch break when I heard Phoebe's voice from one of the stalls. She was on the phone with someone, speaking in hushed but excited tones. As I stood there, frozen, I realized she was talking to Amy. Phoebe was bragging about how her plan to get me fired was working perfectly. She detailed how she had been using her HR access to tamper with my work email and calendar. She laughed about how stressed I looked and said it would only get worse. The most shocking part was when she revealed her next move. She was planning to create a fake harassment complaint against me from a male colleague. She told Amy that once I lost my job, I would have to depend on Brendan financially, and then everyone would see that I was just a gold digger all along. I felt sick to my stomach but had the presence of mind to start recording the conversation on my phone. After gathering enough evidence, I went straight to the head of HR with the recording and filed a formal complaint against Phoebe. I included all the documentation of the work issues I had been experiencing. The company took immediate action and suspended Phoebe pending investigation. They also started an audit of all her activities in the HR system. When Brendan found out what happened, he was furious with Phoebe. This was the first time I had seen him truly angry with his sister. He had always tried to maintain peace between us, often making excuses for her behavior, but this crossed a line. Phoebe had not only tried to destroy my career but had abused her position and violated multiple company policies. Since then, Phoebe has been bombarding both of us with calls and messages. She switches between crying and threatening, saying that I am trying to ruin her career and destroy their family. She told Brendan that he needs to choose between his sister and his gold digger wife. She even tried to convince him that I had set her up and recorded her illegally. Brendan's parents got involved as soon as they heard what happened. His mother thinks I went too far by reporting Phoebe to HR. She believes we should have handled this within the family and found a way to work things out privately. She keeps saying that family should always come first and that I am being vindictive. His father seems to understand our position better but doesn't want to take sides openly to keep peace in the family. I don't think I did anything wrong here. Phoebe was actively trying to get me fired from a job that I had earned through years of hard work. She was willing to create false harassment claims that could have permanently damaged my career. She abused her position in HR and violated multiple workplace policies. I had to protect myself and my career. Brendan fully supports my decision to report her, but this whole situation has created a huge rift in his family. Everyone is taking sides and family gatherings have become extremely tense. Ida? Update 1, it's been 2 weeks since my original post, and the situation has evolved in ways I never expected. The company's investigation into Phoebe's activities concluded yesterday, and the findings were far worse than anyone anticipated. Not only was Phoebe fired from her position, but the company is also considering legal action against her for multiple violations of privacy policies and data protection laws. The investigation revealed that Phoebe's tampering went far beyond just messing with my work schedule and emails. She had been accessing confidential employee records without authorization, modifying performance reports, and even attempting to access salary information of various employees. The most disturbing discovery was that she had been helping Amy get information about Brendan through company databases. She had been looking up records of any female employees who interacted with Brendan at corporate events or meetings, apparently trying to find evidence of inappropriate behavior that she could use against him. But the biggest shock came when we discovered that Amy had actually moved back to our city 6 months ago. She wasn't just a distant voice on the phone encouraging Phoebe's behavior, she had been actively involved in this whole scheme. She had taken a job at a competing firm and had been feeding Phoebe ideas about how to sabotage my career. They had this elaborate plan where they would not only get me fired but also destroy my professional reputation in the industry. Their end goal was to make me look like a gold digger who couldn't hold down a job, hoping that Brendan would finally see me for what they believed I was. The timing of Amy's return wasn't coincidental either. Phoebe had helped her find an apartment just 10 minutes from Brendan's office. They had been orchestrating casual run-ins between Brendan and Amy at local coffee shops and restaurants, trying to create opportunities for them to reconnect. Amy had even joined Brendan's gym, although he hadn't noticed because he usually goes early in the morning while she deliberately went during lunch hours when Phoebe knew I would be in meetings. Brendan is completely devastated by all of this. Despite Phoebe's obvious dislike of me, he had always defended her, believing that she would eventually come around. He kept telling me that Phoebe was just overprotective and needed time to accept our relationship. He had maintained contact with Amy over the years through group settings and mutual friends, thinking their breakup had been amicable. Finding out that both his sister and his ex had been conspiring against his marriage has shaken him deeply. He's cut off all contact with both of them, blocking their numbers and social media accounts. His parents' reaction has made everything even worse. Instead of acknowledging Phoebe's wrongdoing, they're trying to minimize what she did. His mother called me manipulative for recording the bathroom conversation, saying I should have confronted Phoebe directly instead of going to HR. She keeps insisting that Phoebe was just trying to protect her brother from making a mistake, suggesting that maybe Phoebe saw something in me that made her suspicious. The most hurtful part was when she implied that if I had nothing to hide, I wouldn't have reacted so strongly to Phoebe's investigation of my background. Brendan finally lost his patience during a family dinner last weekend. His mother had invited us over, promising to keep things civil, but it turned into an ambush. Phoebe was there, crying and playing the victim, talking about how she'd lost her career because of me. When Brendan's mother started suggesting that we should all forgive and forget, Brendan exploded. He told them that if they couldn't respect his wife and his marriage, they should stay out of our lives entirely. He reminded them how they had always criticized his relationship with Amy for being too dependent on her family's approval, but now they were doing the same thing to him with Phoebe. I feel vindicated by the investigation's findings, but watching Brendan's family fall apart is heartbreaking. Several of his childhood friends, who were also friends with Amy, have started taking Phoebe's side. They're spreading rumors that I seduced Brendan away from Amy and then deliberately set out to destroy Phoebe's career because I was jealous of their close relationship. Some have even suggested that I planted evidence during the company's investigation. Phoebe has been playing the victim card masterfully. She's been telling anyone who will listen that I orchestrated this whole thing to isolate Brendan from his family. She claims that I illegally recorded her private conversation and manipulated the evidence to get her fired. She's painting herself as a concerned sister who is just trying to protect her brother from a gold digger, and unfortunately, some people are buying into her version of events. The whole situation has created a deep rift in Brendan's family. Family events have become impossibly awkward, with people taking sides and hardly speaking to each other. Several of Brendan's relatives have stopped talking to us completely. His cousin's wedding is coming up next month, and the couple has quietly uninvited us to avoid drama. Even Brendan's father, who initially seemed to understand our position, has started suggesting that maybe we should have handled things differently. Brendan and I are staying strong together through all of this, but it's been really challenging. He's been having trouble sleeping and has started seeing a counselor to deal with the betrayal. I stand firmly by my decision to report Phoebe. She was trying to destroy my career and my marriage, but watching Brendan lose his family over this is possibly the hardest thing I've ever had to witness. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, and the situation has gotten even more complicated. What we thought was the end of Phoebe's sabotage turned out to be just the beginning. Last week, our company's IT department discovered something that made everything even worse than before. Apparently, about 2 weeks before she was fired, Phoebe had created a fake email account using my name and company credentials. She had been using this account to send inappropriate and suggestive messages to several male colleagues, including some senior managers. The messages contained personal information about these men that she had accessed through HR records, making them seem more credible. The IT department only discovered this because one of the recipients finally reported the messages after receiving a particularly inappropriate email that was automatically sent through a delayed delivery setting. The company's IT team traced the IP address and confirmed that all these emails were sent from Phoebe's work computer. They found dozens of drafted messages that were scheduled to be sent over the next few months. Some of them contained explicit content that would have definitely gotten me fired and possibly even blacklisted in the industry. Phoebe had planned this as a backup plan in case her other attempts to get me fired didn't work. The company's legal team is now considering pressing charges against Phoebe for identity theft, harassment, and misuse of confidential information. They've also had to reach out to all the male employees who received these emails to explain the situation and ensure them that I wasn't involved. While most of them have been understanding, the whole thing has been incredibly embarrassing for me. I keep catching people whispering when I walk by, and some male colleagues now actively avoid being alone with me in meeting rooms or elevators. Brendan is absolutely livid. He says he doesn't even recognize his sister anymore. The Phoebe he grew up with would never have done something so malicious and calculated. He's been going through old family photos and remembering how close they used to be, which makes this betrayal even harder for him to process. He finally told his parents about the fake email account, thinking this would make them understand why we can't just forgive and forget. Instead, his mother suggested that maybe Phoebe did it because she found something suspicious in my background during her HR investigation. She actually tried to convince Brendan to look into my past relationships to make sure I hadn't done this kind of thing before. But the real shock came yesterday when Amy showed up at our house unannounced. She was waiting in her car when I got home from work. As soon as I pulled into the driveway, she got out and started walking toward me. I immediately called Brendan, who works from home most days now, and he came outside. Amy claimed she wanted to apologize and tried to explain that things had gotten out of hand. According to her, Phoebe had convinced her that Brendan was deeply unhappy in our marriage and was looking for a way out. She said Phoebe told her that Brendan still had feelings for her but felt trapped with me because of what people would say if he left his wife for his ex. When Brendan refused to even speak with her and asked her to leave, Amy completely lost it. She started screaming in our driveway about how I had stolen her life. She said that Brendan and she had planned their whole future together, the house they would live in, how many kids they would have, even what they would name their dogs. She claimed that Brendan had promised they would get back together once she was settled in her new city, and that I had taken advantage of their temporary separation to trap him into marriage. The most disturbing part was when she started threatening to expose Brendan's past mistakes if he didn't hear her out. She mentioned something about an incident from their college days that could apparently damage Brendan's professional reputation. She even pulled out her phone and threatened to call his company's board of directors right then and there. That's when we had to call the police to remove her from our property. They took her away, but not before she screamed that this wasn't over. We're now looking into getting restraining orders against both Phoebe and Amy. Brendan's parents tried to intervene again, saying we're overreacting and that Amy is just emotional because she never got closure from their breakup. They suggested that Brendan should meet with Amy once, in their presence, to talk things through. Brendan finally blocked his parents' numbers after that conversation. The whole situation has created such a toxic environment at work that I'm considering looking for a new job, even though I love my current position. People have mostly been supportive, but there's always whispered conversations that stop when I enter a room. Some colleagues have told me they'd rather not work with me on projects because they don't want to get involved in any drama. My manager is understanding but has suggested that maybe a fresh start somewhere else would be better for my career growth. Update 3. It's been 3 months since everything unfolded, and we've made some major life changes. After much discussion and planning, Brendan and I decided to make a fresh start in a different city. I received an excellent job offer from a tech company on the West Coast, and Brendan's company agreed to let him transfer to their branch office there. The decision wasn't easy, but we both felt it was necessary for our mental health and our marriage. Before we left, Brendan's parents made one final attempt to reconcile the family. They invited us to dinner at their house, and against our better judgment, we agreed to go. When we arrived, we found that Phoebe was there too, along with their aunt who was supposedly there to mediate. It was clearly a setup, but we decided to stay and hear them out rather than immediately leaving. Phoebe tried to apologize, but it was obvious she wasn't genuinely sorry. She kept making passive-aggressive comments about how families should stick together and how I had turned her brother against her. She talked about how she had lost everything, her job, her reputation, her relationship with her brother, while carefully avoiding any mention of her own actions that led to these consequences. When Brendan brought up the fake email account and the harassment of male colleagues, she actually tried to justify it by saying she was just trying to prove what kind of person I really was. The breaking point came when Phoebe suggested that we could all move past this if I would just admit that I had overreacted to her concerns about me and apologize for getting her fired. She even had the audacity to say that she would help me find a new job if I would just take back my complaints against her. That's when Brendan finally lost it. He told her that she was the one who had destroyed the relationship by trying to sabotage his marriage and my career. He said that until she truly understands what she did wrong and shows genuine remorse, he doesn't want any relationship with her. We've been in the new city for a month now, and the change has been incredibly positive for both of us. My new job is challenging and rewarding, and the team has been very welcoming. Brendan seems more relaxed than he's been in months, and we're finally able to focus on our future instead of constantly dealing with family drama. Brendan still gets weekly messages from his parents about forgiving Phoebe, but he deletes them without reading. They tried to guilt-trip him by sending photos from his childhood and talking about how Phoebe has been depressed since losing her job, but he's standing firm in his decision. His father recently attempted to reach out separately, admitting that Phoebe's actions were wrong but still pushing for reconciliation because she's family. We heard through mutual friends that Amy got engaged to someone else and moved back to her old city. Apparently, she's been telling people that she's glad things worked out this way because she's now with someone who truly appreciates her. Phoebe is still unemployed and living with their parents. She occasionally tries to contact Brendan through fake social media accounts or mutual friends, but we block them all immediately. I sometimes feel guilty about how everything turned out, especially when I think about how close Brendan used to be with his sister. But then I remember that I didn't start any of this. I just defended myself against someone who was actively trying to destroy my career and my marriage. Brendan reminds me that none of this is my fault and that we made the right decision by moving away from all the toxicity. The company's legal case against Phoebe is still ongoing, but we've decided not to closely follow it. Our lawyer will handle any necessary communications, but we're choosing to focus on building our new life instead of dwelling on the past. We're finally starting to feel like ourselves again, and that's worth more than any family reconciliation that isn't based on genuine remorse and change.